Okay, so we've got our loft walls stood up and fastened in. They are also fastened into each other at the top here. So the next piece that we're gonna do before we put any sheathing on is I'm gonna place this metal strapping on the corner here. This is called a strong tie. It's from Simpson. I think this is 36 inches long. And since we don't want to go right at the top because we're going to nail the sheathing in there, I'm going to go down to the level of this header board for the window. And these come straight. I just kind of measured where it needed to be and I bent it around a corner. So now I'm going to put some nails in here and fasten it in. And what this is going to do is just give this wall, the place where the walls join together, a little bit more strength and hopefully some resilience for when we are driving down the road and there's a lot of wind. So let's put this in here and hopefully that'll help our house stay together. All right, so I'm standing in our sleeping loft, which will eventually be my bedroom, and I will never be able to stand in here again once we put the roof on because it starts right here. This is a little bit of a less of a steep pitch roof back here. In the front, it'll be a 12-12 roof, so it's at a 45-degree angle. But this part of the house is going to have a little more headroom under here. So we just finished framing these up and standing them up. We put the strong ties on to keep it nice and rigid. Framing a tiny house is not actually all that different from framing on a big house. You do it the same way. We lay the walls down, cut all the pieces, mark out our boards, line everything up, and then we make sure everything is nice and square before we shoot nails into the top and bottom. So we can fasten everything together that way before we stand the walls up. The only difference is on our first floor, we had all of these threaded rods to go through so that the hurricane ties could, hold our house down, I guess. So for that, we had to drill out the holes and actually pick the walls up and set them over those rods. But other than that, it was very similar to how you'd frame a big house. The difference in the loft is that if you see this purple line right here, that's the subfloor for the loft. And that is actually a part of this outer wall here. It becomes a structural part of the house, which is a little unusual. You wouldn't do that in a big house. So what we did here was we had to put the loft floor on before we could frame any of these loft walls. So we did that. We have this humongous header right here now that should keep everything nice and sturdy and we won't fall through, I hope. And so our next step is to sheathe these walls. So we're going to take 4x8 sheets of plywood. We're doing it vertically because it's a small house and we can get away with doing whatever we want. So we're going to sheathe vertically here and try and go down the whole house and get it all covered.